You're walking through an ordinary day, and something hits with strange precision. A phrase you haven't heard in years shows up twice in the same hour. A symbol keeps repeating. A name, a number, a song line. And the timing feels personal. Most people do one of two things. They dismiss it as random, or they crown it as destiny. Both reactions miss what's actually happening. Because very often, synchronicity isn't the universe sending you a cute wink. It's a shadow signal. It's the part of you you keep avoiding, finding a way to be seen. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop chasing signs, and you start extracting meaning. You stop asking, what does this sign mean? Like a riddle. And you start asking the only question that matters. What part of me is trying to come back online? Stay with me, because by the end of this video you'll have a clear way to tell signal versus noise without spiraling. A simple model for why signs intensify when you're stuck. A practical decoding method that turns synchronicity into real inner change. And a clean way to seal the work so you don't repeat the same loop next month, wearing a different mask. No fluff, no superstition, no airy talk, just a sharp map. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. If synchronicity keeps showing up, it's rarely because you're special. It's usually because you're split. Split between what you say you want and what you actually allow. Split between a conscious identity and a hidden motive. Split between the self you present and the self you don't want to meet. The shadow isn't evil. The shadow is simply unowned life, unowned anger, unowned desire, unowned grief, unowned ambition, unowned softness, unowned need, unowned truth. And when something inside you remains unowned, it doesn't disappear. It becomes pressure. It becomes distortion. It becomes repetition. It leaks into choices. It shapes reactions. It quietly becomes the cause behind outcomes you keep calling bad luck. So when you see a synchronicity that feels too precise, don't rush to decode the symbol. First, recognize the function. Synchronicity is often what happens when the unconscious tries to force integration through timing and meaning, not to entertain you, to confront you. Here's a clean way to think about it. A synchronicity is an outer event that mirrors an inner state so well that it breaks your autopilot. It interrupts the trance. It makes you pause. It makes you feel, okay, something is going on. And that pause is the whole point. Because your shadow survives through speed, through distraction, through, I'll deal with it later. Synchronicity is the psyche's way of slowing you down by creating meaning you can't easily ignore. But there's a trap here. If you treat synchronicities like fortune cookies, you'll start living for signs instead of living for truth. You'll become dependent on confirmation, and you'll lose the most valuable use of synchronicity. It's a diagnostic tool. A mirror that shows you what's unresolved. A spotlight that reveals the hidden cause. And once you see the cause, you can change the chain. Now let's get practical. There are 3 layers to what's happening when synchronicities show up. Layer 1, attention. What you focus on becomes real, not philosophically functionally. Your attention selects what you notice, what you remember, what you connect. Layer 2, state. Your emotional state shapes interpretation and decision. Same situation, different state, different outcome. Layer 3, causation. Repeated inner states produce repeated choices. Repeated choices produce repeated results. So when synchronicity appears, it often reveals a hidden loop. You're locked in a state, and the world around you is reflecting it back, sometimes with brutal elegance. This is why signs tend to spike at very specific moments, right before you make a decision you've been avoiding, right after you lie to yourself, just a little, when a pattern is about to repeat again. When your system is tired of carrying the split, synchronicity is often the moment the loop becomes visible. So instead of chasing meaning in the clouds, we're going to work like an investigator. 3 case files. Then one decoding protocol you can use forever. Case file number 1. You keep seeing the same number or sequence, not once, not twice, over days, over weeks. And the timing is always the same kind of moment, when you're thinking about leaving something, starting something, or admitting something. Here's what most people do. They assign the number a mystical label and stop there. But here's the better question. What decision does the number appear next to? Because a repeating pattern isn't just a message. It's a marker. A marker that says, your attention keeps circling the same doorway. Now, why can't you walk through it? That's where shadow comes in. The conscious mind says, I want change. The shadow says, change is dangerous. So your life becomes a compromise. You fantasize. You plan. You research. You wait, and the number appears again, like a bell you refuse to answer. In this case file, the number is not magic. It's pressure. Pressure from a part of you that knows the truth and is tired of your delays. So the question becomes, what is the shadow protecting? Usually one of these, a fear of losing identity. If I change, who am I? A fear of responsibility. If it works, I can't hide anymore. A fear of visibility. If I'm seen, I'll be judged. A fear of grief. If I move forward, I admit what I lost. If the number follows you, you're not being chosen. You're being cornered by your own deeper honesty. Good, because honesty is the beginning of integration. Case file number 2. You're carrying a private question, not a casual one, a real one. And then, out of nowhere, someone says the exact phrase you needed. A stranger, a book page, a headline, a conversation you weren't even part of. It lands like a direct response. Again, the point isn't to obsess over the messenger. The point is to observe what happened inside you when it landed. Did it bring relief? Did it trigger irritation? Did it create fear? Did it create a quiet certainty you tried to argue with? Because that reaction is the shadow showing itself. The shadow isn't only bad traits. Sometimes your shadow is your own strength. Some people disown anger. Others disown ambition. Others disown tenderness. Others disown authority. Others disown the right to choose. So the message arrives, and instead of receiving it, you flinch. And that flinch is the gold. That flinch is the part you've been training yourself not to feel. So in this case file, the encounter isn't a cosmic miracle. It's a mirror with perfect timing. A mirror that says, you already know. Now stop negotiating. Case file number 3. A dream repeats. Or a symbol repeats across dreams. Or you keep seeing the same image in different contexts. A locked door, a flooded room, a forgotten child, a dark figure, a missing voice, a burning house. People either ignore it or they turn it into entertainment. But a repeating dream symbol is often a pressure valve, the unconscious trying to complete a movement. If the symbol repeats, it's usually because the conscious mind keeps refusing the same integration. And here's the practical angle. Dream symbols don't just tell you what you feel. They reveal what you're not allowing yourself to become. A locked door might not mean mystery. It might mean you've been refusing a life you want. A dark figure might not mean bad omen. It might mean you've been disowning an instinct that would protect you. A flooded room might not mean spiritual cleansing. It might mean you've been suppressing emotion until it spills. The function is consistent. Repetition continues until you reclaim what was split off. So across all 3 case files, the pattern is the same. Synchronicity is often the shadow trying to integrate. And integration is the real event. Now, important warning. There is a version of synchronicity that becomes a drug. You start collecting signs because it feels like meaning, but meaning becomes a substitute for action. You watch the patterns. You track the numbers. You interpret. You decode, and you stay exactly the same person. That's not awakening. That's avoidance with a mystical costume. So we need a filter. A clean one, not to kill wonder, but to keep your mind sharp. Here's the discernment filter I use, not as a rule, as a test. Test 1. Does it increase responsibility? If the sign makes you feel special while reducing responsibility, be careful. A real signal tends to increase clarity and accountability. Test 2. Does it repeat near the same decision? If it's random, it's entertainment. If it clusters around the same doorway, it's pressure around a shadow split. Test 3. Does it demand a change in behavior, not just belief? A real signal usually asks for a shift you can measure. A conversation, a boundary, a step, a refusal, a commitment. If it only produces interpretation, it's usually noise. If it produces movement, it's often signal. Now we can decode without losing our mind. Here's the protocol. This is the core of the video. When a synchronicity hits number, symbol, encounter, dream, run it through 5 steps. Step 1. Name the event in 1 sentence. Not an essay. 1 sentence. What happened? Literally. Same phrase showed up twice today. Same number keeps appearing during the same thought. Dream repeated the locked door. Step 2. Identify the inner state it touched. What did it activate? Fear, relief, irritation, longing, grief, pride. Your emotion is the tether to the shadow. Step 3. Find the disowned pole. Every shadow split has 2 poles. You cling to one consciously and exile the other. Examples. I'm the calm one gives shadow pole, anger/boundaries. I'm logical gives shadow pole, intuition/risk. I'm nice gives shadow pole, selfishness, honesty. I'm independent gives shadow pole, need/receiving. I'm spiritual gives shadow pole, desire, ambition, money/status. I'm strong gives shadow pole, vulnerability, grief. The synchronicity often points at the pole you've been avoiding. Step 4. Locate the hidden cause. What is the inner sentence behind the pattern? This is crucial because your life is often run by a sentence you didn't choose. A sentence like, if I speak, I lose love. If I succeed, I become a target. If I relax, everything collapses. If I commit, I lose freedom. If I'm seen, I'll be rejected. Synchronicity tends to appear when that sentence is activated. Step 5. Choose a small action that proves integration. Not a grand transformation. A small, visible action that reclaims the disowned part. If the shadow is boundaries, 1 honest no. If the shadow is need, 1 clear request. If the shadow is ambition, 1 concrete step toward the goal. If the shadow is grief, 1 moment of truthful acknowledgement instead of distraction. If the shadow is anger, 1 protected expression clean, not explosive. The key is that action is not punishment. It's ownership. That's the protocol. Event, state, pole, sentence, action. Now, we add the alchemical map because it makes the process even clearer. Interchange moves through 3 stages. Always. Stage 1. Nigredo, the darkening. This is where you stop romanticizing. You name what's really happening. You admit the split. Not dramatic, just honest. Stage 2. Albedo, the clarifying. This is where you clean the story. You separate truth from defense. You identify the hidden sentence running you. Stage 3. Rubedo, the sealing. This is where you embody the new rule, not by thinking, by repeating the right action until it becomes stable. Now this matters for retention in your own life, because many people do nigredo and call it healing. They discover the shadow and get addicted to discovery. But transformation only happens at rubedo, when the new rule survives real life. Synchronicity can help you track where you are. If signs keep intensifying, you're often stuck between nigredo and albedo, seeing the problem, but not sealing the shift. So we're going to add one more tool, a symbolic anchor, not as magic, as a stabilizer for attention and state. Here's the practical idea. A symbol can serve as a memory trigger, a tactile reminder, a way to hold a new rule in the nervous system without overthinking it. In old alchemical language, certain stones and colors were used as anchors for specific inner qualities. Not because the rock is a miracle, because the mind responds to symbol and ritual. So if you want an anchor, you pick it based on the phase you're in. If you're in clarifying and cutting through mental fog, a deep violet tone is often used as a focus and structure anchor. It pairs well with the Saturn theme. Boundaries, discernment, clean separation of essential versus noise. If you're in emotional stabilization, soft lunar symbolism is often used, calming, settling, digesting feelings without being swallowed by them. If you're in sealing commitment, red solar symbolism is often used, decision, vitality, embodiment. I will live this. You can keep it simple. A small stone on your desk, a color card in your notebook, a single object you only associate with the new rule. The point is not power from outside. The point is a handle for your attention. Because attention is how you steer state, and state is how you change cause. Let's do a clean example, no theatrics. Imagine this. You keep seeing the same symbol right when you think about leaving a job that drains you. Event. Symbol repeats whenever I consider leaving. State. Anxiety plus relief at the same time. Pole. You cling to security consciously. You exile. Freedom and risk. Sentence. If I leave, I fail. If I fail, I lose respect. Action. One measurable move that proves ownership: updating one application, having one honest conversation, setting one boundary, or defining one runway plan. Notice what we didn't do. We didn't ask the symbol to give permission. We used the symbol as a flashlight. The synchronicity wasn't destiny. It was diagnosis. And diagnosis becomes freedom when you act. One more thing, this explains why synchronicities often spike right before change. When you approach a threshold, the shadow panics. Because the shadow's job is to keep identity stable. Even if identity is painful, it's familiar. So right before you break a pattern, you'll often see louder coincidences, stronger dream symbols, repeated phrases from different people, random obstacles that test your boundary. This isn't a curse. It's a stability system. Old identity fighting for its life. So if signs increase, don't automatically celebrate. Don't automatically fear. Just read the signal. A split is becoming visible. Integration is demanded. Then use the protocol. Here's the final reframe I want you to keep. Synchronicity is not there to entertain you. It's there to return you to wholeness. If you keep seeing signs, the question is not, what is the universe telling me? The sharper question is, what am I refusing to own? Own the anger you keep packaging as spiritual calm. Own the desire you keep calling impossible. Own the grief you keep outrunning with productivity. Own the truth you keep diluting to stay liked. And when you do, something strange happens. You don't need signs as much, because your inner world becomes coherent. And coherence changes outcomes. Not because reality becomes magical, but because the hidden cause is no longer hidden. So here's the map again, clean and short. Name the event. Name the state. Find the disowned pole. Identify the hidden sentence. Take a small action that proves integration. Then seal it over time until the new rule holds. That's how you turn synchronicity into inner alchemy. No fluff, no dependence, no confusion. If you want more work like this, clear, practical, and grounded, feel free to like and subscribe. And next time a sign appears, don't chase it. Use it.